Our county board proceedings will now come to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Supervisor Locke with the invocation.
As we meet tonight, come and be with us and guide our thoughts, ideas, and decisions. Amen. Anybody that wants to.
Supervisor Knitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the adoption of tonight's agenda with one change. Resolution 062 before ordinance 50055.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Is there anybody from the public that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda tonight? Now is your chance to speak. We would like you to try to keep your remarks to 3 minutes, but yes, state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Carol Schubert. I live at 1530 Jefferson. I'm the mother of Mariah Munch. We called her Maya. When she was little, we called her Fish because of a lullaby I sang to her. Mariah died at the intersection of CB and Oak Ridge Road. We've come to call that place Mariah's intersection. In this path that I walk since Mariah's death, I have learned many things. Even before it was her intersection, things like intersection geometric and how traffic volume matter. What really matters is that the Winnebago County coroner called me to tell me that she was in Fond du Lac and that I could no longer see her. What really matters is that sweet child is gone and that our family is forever shattered and can no longer be repaired. What really matters is that now we have the ability to act in the matter of public safety. I have with me tonight a resolution from the town of Neenah that they enacted and passed on March 14th, 10 days after Mariah died. I also have a resolution from the city of Neenah dated August 3rd. Also, a resolution from the town of Menasha dated August 8th. A resolution from the town of Clayton dated August 3rd. A resolution from the village of Fox Crossing dated August 8th. All of these places are asking for you to vote for changes and upgrades at Mariah's intersection, CB and Oak Ridge Road, and I ask you again to fix this place that you so long ago said was a dangerous place in our county. We need to fix this place, fix this intersection so that all our places are safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening?
My name is Brent Grunwald, and I live at 819 North Main Street. I'd like to say that I'm glad to see so many of you made it here safe tonight because there's a very important vote to be made. Had you instead, on your way here, for one reason or another, decided to turn around and head back, my hope is that you would have encountered safe roadways no matter which exit you took. Mariah Munch, or Maya as we call her, was doing just that when she lost the freedom to live a normal human lifespan. Maya, on her way from Oshkosh to her job in Appleton, took the exit at Oak Ridge Road in Neenah. Finding no on-ramp to head back home, she ended up continuing west towards CB. We, speaking on behalf of Maya's family and friends, are latecomers to the group of people very concerned with the safety or lack thereof of the intersection of CB and Oak Ridge Road. Although too late for Maya's sake, we hope the board continues on the current path towards improving the intersection for the safety of everyone yet to travel through it. We believe the board collectively made the right decision to seek the recommendation of a third-party consultant after an in-depth evaluation of the intersection controls. We attended the public involvement meeting held July 20th, and I was glad to hear whether you continue with us on the path to making CB and Oak Ridge Road a roundabout, or for some reason or another decide to turn back or to take a different exit, I hope you all arrive home safely.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening? State your name and address.
Sharon Engel, 78 Lake Street, Oshkosh. I've never attended a county board meeting before, so you know I'm highly motivated. I've known Mariah all her life. I had her in my preschool classes. I watched her grow up at church. I called those kids in my class my kids, and Mariah was one of my kids, and to lose her has been an absolute tragedy. My daughter now works at a place that built a new business, at least 3 times the size it was in Neenah, out there in Appleton, and she passes that intersection daily. And my heart sinks at the thought of that not being a safe intersection for my daughter and everyone else's loved ones. I don't ever want to see anyone else go through what Mariah's family has gone through. So, truly, I beg you, give this your most serious consideration. A roundabout is the safest thing. Keep all our families safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, board members of the county board. My name is Bob Schmeichel. I'm the town chairman of the town of Neenah. I live on Mandela Court in Neenah. You know, we've come a long way since the major fatality here at this intersection, but in calendar year terms, it's not that long, but for others, it's a lifetime. I'd like to thank the county board for approving the process of completing an independent engineering study for this intersection that has provided analytic information that helps confirm historical traffic statistics at this intersection. They have strongly recommended a redesign of this intersection to that of a roundabout. I also would like to thank Ernie Winters for staying the course in this process. So thank you, Mr. Winters. Tonight we have an opportunity to complete this process. Are there other intersections in the county or the state that have critical intersection needs? Certainly. But this one in particular has, Wisconsin, caught the public eye by everyone, from the county to the townships to the state. The state has listened, and by granting an approximately $1 million state road aid for this project. The fact that this was approved in a relatively short period of time from the date of application indicates the numerous people that have raised concerns and the state has listened. Also, the town of Clayton, the city of Neenah, the town of Monashnow, Fox Crossings, and the town of Neenah all have passed resolutions for this redesign, as you heard. that being a roundabout. We cannot change history of this intersection and the loss of life and limb, but we certainly can change the incident rate. This is not a matter of another fatality happening if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. Please do not fall into the cliche of, "I told you so," to come and bite us. Opportunity is not only knocking, the door is wide open. So tonight, I ask you that the county board pass this resolution of 062-102-016 to appropriate $1.9 million to a capital project for the improvement and reconstruction of County CB and Oak Ridge Road intersection located in the town of Neenah for the health, safety, and welfare of us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I haven't commented to the board for some time, and I see some new faces here, so I'd like to introduce
You have to
myself.
state your name and address.
My name is Larry Last. I live at 3827 Red Oak Court in the town of Nakamai. I'm a retired air traffic controller for 31 years. I worked at Cleveland Center, Chicago O'Hare, and Minneapolis Flow Control. I learned to fly here at Oshkosh when I was 16 years old. I have a small airplane that I have hangared here. I'm an EAA member, and I'm a commercial corporate pilot flying for a corporation that's based here. I hope this gives a little credence to my credentials to talk about what I'm going to speak about, and you understand that I like this airport. You see, $30,000 is not really a lot of money when you're dealing with million-dollar budgets that you do, but it's the process and the integrity of the process that has my concern tonight, and I hope it has yours. Let me explain, but before I do that, this holding bay project now is a shared project between us and the state of Wisconsin for $185,000. $92,500 is Winnebago County's share, our taxpayers, and the state's the other. In Resolution 065 tonight, it states that this holding bay was expected to qualify for FAA funding. Now, over a year ago, that the FAA told airport management that it would not qualify for funding. This was known prior to the bids going out. Again, in Resolution 065, it states it was later determined it would not qualify for funding. Again, the airport already knew a year ago it would not qualify for funding before the bids went out. And before I get into my final concern, I would like to have someone ask the airport manager that's here tonight that if he's following Aviation Circular 5300, which I have here. The question would be, if not, why not? And if the question is yes, then why are we constructing a poorly designed holding bay, and for whom? Let me just read a little bit from this. I'll leave this here in case if anybody wants to reference it later. It says, for holding bays at runway ends. Holding bays provide a standing space for aircraft awaiting clearance and permit those aircraft already cleared to move to the runway for takeoff position. A holding bay should be provided when a runway operations reach over 30 per hour. That's per hour. The location should be, although most advantageous, position for a holding bay should be adjacent to the taxiway serving the runway end. The runway end. Now, holding bays should be designed so aircraft can go by each other without hitting each other. And here's a picture out of the book that says this is what it should look like. So airplanes can pull off and pull onto the runway when their number is called. Okay? I wish I had bigger pictures. Now this is right out of the manual. This is a poorly designed one on the bottom. And that's what we're building. That's what we're building. It comes off a taxiway, basically a parking lot. And if you're parked in the back and there's 3 planes in front of you and your number gets called, you ain't going anywhere. So it's a bad design. Now, I'm surprised this is not in your packet, but this is a construction drawing. And you can see my finger is at the end of the runway. And you can see the pink dot outlined in black is where we're building this. It's not close to a runway end. It's not even close to anything, really. The 2 pink dots up there are the EAA hangars. Now, this is just another picture that shows the distance between the end of the runway and where we're building this. Resolution 065 states that we will ask the EAA to share the cost of this project, since they have the most to gain from it. That concerns me. To finalize my concerns in this resolution, the FAA said over a year ago, no. It doesn't meet their needs criteria. It doesn't meet the design criteria. And for a pilot, and those people watching at home that are EAers, you know runway 9, where this thing is going to be, is the least favorite runway of an air show. They would rather land north-south than land on runway 9, because it's hard to park airplanes. Yet we're building this bay near runway 9. The appearance of the FAA not funding this when it was known a year ago, that bothers me. This solely benefits a private entity. It says so in the resolution. Shouldn't they be the one bringing it to us to help them build it? I ask you please vote no tonight on Resolution 065. I feel if the Aviation Committee and the Personnel and Finance Committee knew all these facts and the information, they would have proceeded differently. Just give me, please, give me a little time to ask for a public review of this project. Then when you are given the true project and whom it's for and how it improves the Winnebago County Airport, then and only then can you vote for or against with the best interest of the taxpayer and Winnebago County in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda? State your name and address.
My name's Sharon Kerner. I live at 709 Merritt Avenue, and I have never come to one of these meetings before either, but I'd like to speak to you on Resolution 62. A few years ago, as I was coming into Oshkosh, I passed by Riff Road, and many of you will probably remember 2 lovely girls who were killed in that accident that went across that road. And that was repaired and taken care of in what I would consider a normal amount of time. I hope you will pass this resolution and we can get to this fixture that we need, because if we don't, maybe one of you will be passing down that same road and someday have to see a horrific accident like I witnessed, and it was horrible. So please consider that, plus the revenue that we will be getting, and pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening? Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening? Now is your chance. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board on anything on the agenda this evening? That portion of the meeting will be closed. Reports, communications, and petition and zoning reports from the clerk.
Tonight, we only have a couple of petitions for zoning amendments. The first one comes from Adam B. Fuss in the town of Poygan, requesting a zoning change from R1 to A2 for single-family home and small farm, referred to planning and zoning. A petition for zoning amendment from Ken Reedinger in the town of Rushford, requesting a zoning change from A2 to R1, and that is also referred to the Planning and Zoning Committee. There was one letter put on your desk tonight from Representative, was it? Gordon Hintz, I'm sorry. He had sent you a letter thanking you for the resolution that we had sent on. So just to draw that, let everybody know that's there. Thank you.
Thank you. Reports from committees, commissions, and boards. Supervisor Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to tell everyone there will be no legislative meeting again this month. I'm not lacking my duties here, but Mr. Wenke's the only one that sent something in this time, and we did talk about it somewhat at the last meeting, but we'll definitely plan on one in November. So, but make sure and get it to either myself or the clerk's office so we can have a list of things to do, because the legislative people do not want to come and just listen to us mumble and grumble there. So, and we only had one last time, so if we don't have anything on the agenda, they're not going to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I would like to report on attending drug court graduation. On Friday, September 29th, I attended the Winnebago County Safe Streets Drug Court graduation, for which 107 have graduated since 2006. The three graduates attended 170 drug court sessions and took more than 850 drug tests. The primary purpose of the Winnebago County Safe Streets Initiative is community safety, seeking a balance between punishment and rehabilitation, therein providing an alternative to incarceration. And I would also like to report attending a sheriff's ceremony on Monday, October 10th. I attended a sheriff's ceremony in which 3 new officers were sworn in, 2 were promoted, and 2 county employees retired. One retiree was Rodney Schroffnagel, who gave an impassioned recap of his 39-year public career, of which the last 20 were with the Human Services Division assigned to the Sheriff's Office dealing with inmates in and out of jail. If there are any questions, feel free to contact me after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to report anything? Supervisor Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to take just a few moments to pay tribute to a friend and a co-worker, Supervisor George Shirk. I had the opportunity on Saturday to attend an event at one of our shelters, and the City Council and Park and Recreation Committee decided to name that shelter the George Shirk Memorial Shelter in Neenah. This was in part for his 12 years as mayor of the city of Neenah, 24 years serving on the Neenah City Council, 8 years as president of the City Council. He also received a plaque from the state and was given well wishes by many people. George Shirk has been a real asset to the city of Neenah, and the growth that has taken place there while he has been on the council and as the mayor is excellent. So I say congratulations, George Shirk.
Is there anybody else that would like to report anything? Approval of proceedings from September 20th, 2016 meeting. Been moved and seconded. Are there any additions or corrections? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. County Executives Report.
Just want to make sure everyone on the board knows that the budget books are now available online, and if you are getting a hard copy, those are also available through the clerk's office. This year's budget will have a 3-cent decline in the equalized tax rate, which will allow most people's property taxes to stay roughly flat. And with the April 2017 principal payment, our debt should be at a 21-year low. plenty more details. There is challenges in this budget, especially healthcare costs, and there'll be more information on that when we present the budget at the end of the month. Also, the board may be interested. At the last meeting, many members urged us to enter into a new contract with Impact Motorsports. A sample contract has been given to them. They've reviewed it and sent it back with requested changes. We will probably approve some of those changes and reject others, but we'll continue to work with them for a one-year contract. And that should be completed soon. The other item on the agenda that I want to talk about is Mariah's intersection, Resolution 62-10-2016. This is an issue we've been facing for a long time, and I really hope that the board will see fit to keep this project moving and to approve this resolution with the required majority. I do have some appointments tonight. And actually, so one is for the Winnebago County Housing Authority, and I would like to nominate Rodney Cross for appointment to the Housing Authority Board.
Then moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
And I have an appointment for the Winnefox Library System Board, and I'd like to appoint Jill Enos.
Then moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
And I should have told you that Jill was being appointed to complete the unexpired term of Christine Roop. And that's all I have for you tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
The budget books were put on, those that asked for a budget book were handed out to them this evening. So.
Very good. Pardon?
Supervisor Harp is asked to be excused tonight. And I just wanted to say those that couldn't attend the end of September, we had a meeting in Milwaukee, a WCA conference. It was very well attended, and those that couldn't go missed a very good conference, and hope that you can go again next year. So thank those that attended it. That's all I have. And then zoning reports and ordinances. Report number 1001, Michael S. Yingling, Town of Wolf River, Supervisor Kreischer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of report number 001.
And been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. A mandatory ordinance number 100116, rezoning from R1 to R1 without wetland for tax parcel number 032-0730-19. Supervisor Kreischer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval of mandatory ordinance number 100116.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Report number 2, Oshkosh Realty Corporation, Town of Nakaimai. Supervisor Keller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the acceptance of report number 2.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. A mandatory ordinance number 100216, rezoning from A2 to R1 for tax parcel number 012-031903. Supervisor Keller.
I move for approval of the mandatory ordinance 100216.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Ordinance number 055. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, ordinance number 055. Oh, I thought I was going to do it before the resolution, but okay. Ordinance number 062. 06210-2016. Supervisor Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the Highway Committee, I make a motion to approve the resolution number 062-102016.
Then moved and seconded.
You should have read it.
Appropriate $1,900,000 to a capital project for the improvement of relocation of County Highway CB and Oak Ridge Road intersection located in the town of Neenah. Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of Resolution 062-10216. On September 4th, 2007, this county board, its predecessor, received a presentation on roundabouts from the Wisconsin Department of Transportation Regional Engineer. And in that presentation, the benefits of roundabouts were listed and summarized. One, there's low entry speed. Two, there is low circulation speed. Three, there's a controlled yield at the entry. Four, there's no weaving in the circle. 5, it's comfortable to drive. 6, it takes high capacities. 7, there's better turning radii for trucks. And 8, it's the safest type of intersection. This is the presentation that was given to this county board September 4th, 2007, and I ask for the members of the board to approve that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Powers.
I'm also speaking in favor of this resolution. I would urge, this has been going on for so many years, and Mrs. Joubert has given us a face and a voice of the pain coming around the loss of life and serious injuries in that location. So I would ask the board to approve this unanimously, and I would also encourage the board to come up with some plan so that in the future, when there are back road intersections that have very little traffic but suddenly begin to be developed, that the developers have to have a plan for the increased traffic so that a place like this that was fine 25 years ago and is not fine now, that there is some kind of plan in place that developers have to come up with. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm 100% in support of this resolution, mainly because of the fact that lives are worth more than just a couple of dollars. And if we can prevent what we're going through right now and what the lady behind me is going through, I think that's our duty. I feel that we should put the roundabout in, and Mr. Chairman, after we vote this in, I'd like to speak one more time for just a quick minute, if you would. Thank you.
Supervisor Shirk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My history of support for roundabouts, I guess, is pretty well known based on the large number that we have in the city of Neenah. But, you know, a lot of times we face complicated issues that have two sides to it, and we have to deliberate carefully. This is not one of them. We have a consultant who has taken a position. We have the highway commissioner who has taken a position. We have a huge number of citizens. We have all of the municipalities in the area that have taken a position. The National Highway Safety Institute has made it clear in their detailed study about the number of traffic fatalities that are prevented by roundabouts. And so therefore, it's one of those issues that I hope everybody rises up and supports this immediately. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also agree that we need this roundabout. I've been contacted by several parties that either live in the area or travel through that area quite often, and they requested that I support it, which I have in the past and I still do. The one thing I look forward to, and we could look forward to, is we have a growing community on that end of Neenah, and as a result, that intersection is going to become more and more used, and a roundabout is going to make it a lot safer. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Haig?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to this Resolution 062, I'd like to make an amendment, and that would be on line 20. I'd like to cross out, should they be needed, and also these on line 20, and then all of line 21, all of line 22, and all of line 23, such then that that whereas that begins on line 20 would read, whereas $100,000 has been included as part of Winnebago County's portion of the project costs for temporary traffic signals during the design and construction phases of the project, period.
Did you get it also? Read it back from, if you would.
On line 20, you're deleting the words "should they be needed," so that and then deleting lines 21, 22, and 23, so that that paragraph reads, whereas $100,000 has been included as part of Winnebago County's portion of the project costs for temporary traffic signals during the design and construction phases of the project.
And the amendment is simply to show that we want to make an immediate impact at this intersection, that we won't wait until should they be needed. We've been talking for years about something that should be needed at that intersection. Why are we going to wait another 6, 9, 12 months until construction begins at this intersection to put up a temporary stoplight that probably should have been put up a year ago? So I asked for a second, and I ask that we approve that change.
Is there a second? Okay, it was moved and seconded. We have a lot of lights on here. Supervisor Binder on the amendment? Supervisor Ramos on the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was actually going to speak on the resolution, but I do have a comment to make about the amendment. Actually, I'm in favor of it, but I'm just offering up maybe some friendly changes in the wording, because I think Supervisor Haig's intent is that the money that's already been appropriated would actually be used to install the temporary traffic lights while we wait, or while the permanent solution is put in place in terms of the roundabout. And if that's correct, then I think we need to have an action in there saying that they'll indeed be installed, unless I'm misunderstanding you. So I guess I'll offer this as just a friendly added to wording, because I agree with the intent. It says, whereas $100,000 has been included as part of Winnebago County's portion of the project cost for temporary traffic signals. Then I put a comma, therefore traffic signals shall be installed during the design and construction phases of the project. I just think that makes it clear that indeed that's the action we'd be taking, assuming that was the intent of Supervisor Haig. I suspect it was, and I'm wholly in support of that.
Thank you.
So you'll accept that?
That would have to be at the bottom of the resolution. This is just the whereas part. You want the...
Oh, so it'd have to be under the resolve.
Right. If that's what you want, Mr. Ramos.
That is indeed what I'd want. I think that was Supervisor Haig's intent.
So that would be a separate amendment we can make.
Okay, then I guess it would be after this, huh? All right, thank you.
So where are we at with it?
Yeah. Just Haig's original amendment.
Okay. Supervisor Binder again, nothing on the amendment? Are you on the amendment? Supervisor Olson on the amendment?
Thank you. As someone who lost a family member at the age of 18 due to a automobile accident, I wish there were roundabouts back then. So I can certainly understand the pain and suffering this family is going through, and I will support this. But with regards to the amendment, I would really like to defer this and hear the reasons from Mr. Winters before we go ahead and change things. Obviously, he has a reason for putting that in there. I don't think he indiscriminately put it in there to delay or to rouse anybody. So I can't support the amendment until I hear what Mr. Winters has to say. Thank you.
Supervisor Rasmussen on the amendment? Pardon? Well, I had to wait for his, okay. Go ahead.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
overlook his numbers. His numbers way down in the bottom. And
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My comment would run along the course of Supervisor Olson. My comment was going to be that it's my understanding that the Highway Commissioner is not in favor of that paragraph from lines 19 to 23. That's what we were told at PNF.
Ernie, would you like to give us your opinion? It's unusual, but
Sure.
seeing it's controversial, we'll let you speak.
The reason I wrote the paragraph as I did was so we can exercise all the due diligence we need to before we put in temporary signals. Not to defend not putting them in, simply to do a good job determining whether or not they're needed. That was really the only reason. If this is changed by amendment and the county board decides thou shalt be put in.
Supervisor Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple questions of Ernie, too.
I'll get back to you.
Before I ask those questions, this was a very long conversation at PNF in reference to this very specific item. It was decided that it needed to come in front of the board so that they could make their decision as it relates to it. I have several concerns. While everybody on the board here, I believe, knows I was in law enforcement for 38 years, the people in the back don't, so please understand this is coming from my experience in law enforcement. I very well remember the accident at 45 and Y, and the state was able to move on it very quickly because construction of 45 was already ongoing, and all they did was move the overpass from T down to Y, the overpass from Y down to T. And so I understand when Ernie told us this will take a little bit of time. As a result of that, I also happen to think of what used to be the ramp for 41 southbound at North Street that had a huge hill for the traffic coming down from 41, which prevented a lot of the traffic crossing at North Street from seeing that exiting vehicle, and we had some very serious car accidents there. That brings me to the couple questions I have. First is, if you put up the lights, will that hill to the south of that intersection still be there, and will you still have a obstruction as it comes to the view of the lights? The second one is this putting in the traffic lights, will this guarantee that we will not have any more injuries, or do we need to consider other steps during the pending construction to ensure that we do not have another loss of life or serious injury at that intersection?
If we put up temporary traffic signals, the hill will not be adjusted. There's not money in the budget to adjust the hill. Signals should help the hill problem. People will be able to see them. They're taller, so people going north will be able to see them. Will it guarantee safety? No. Traffic signals do not guarantee safety. Traffic signals are primarily for traffic movement purposes. They do typically improve the safety slightly at intersections. There's no guarantee that people running over rumble strips and running stop signs won't run red lights.
correct me if I'm wrong on this, though. The reason that the engineers are designing so many roundabouts now is because of the increased possibility of traffic deaths and injuries at what is commonly referred to as T-bone intersections as a result of red lights, whereas the roundabouts provide us a safer intersection conflict of use.
Correct, yes.
Is there anything short of closing that intersection down prior to the beginning of the construction and until it's completed that will prevent any real accidents or, excuse me, any T-bones or serious injuries or deaths at that intersection? Is there anything short of that?
Right. No, not really.
In 38 years in law enforcement, I've had very mixed feelings about temporary lights and was very happy. I was one of the few that was very happy when the discussion first began about roundabouts. And luckily, I believe that my support of roundabouts was proven as a result of the decrease in injuries and deaths at these roundabouts versus lights. I think this is long overdue at this intersection. I'm happy that we're moving in that direction. I'm still disturbed, though, that it's going to take as long as it's going to take. I really am uncomfortable putting temporary lights up without any consideration of closing down that intersection rather than, or closing down Oak Ridge's interaction with that intersection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 or 3 months ago, we had a resolution. First, I'd like to start out by saying I am in full support of the roundabout being built, but I'm not in favor of the temporary signals. Again, this was a resolution that was before the board 2 or 3 months ago, and it was defeated. And correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we have some kind of rule on how a defeated resolution can come back to the board?
We do, but this is not the same resolution. This is a resolution to fund the roundabout. If somebody puts something additional in it, which would deal with what was defeated before, that's the way, I think that's allowable. I mean, in my opinion, you folks, it's your county board rules, and you can decide upon that, but again, there can be provisions put in another resolution that's not exactly the same that would deal with the same situation.
Okay, that takes care of that part of it. I was against the temporary signals when that was previously brought forward. I agree with everything Supervisor Brooks just talked about. When you're changing traffic patterns like that, that's always a recipe for something to happen. Traffic signals are for traffic control, they are not for safety. No guarantee that this would work. A little story, quick story I told at P&F meeting. For those of you that are familiar with Highway 91 and Highway 44, where that comes together, when it used to be County X, that was a straight shot that came out to 44. The project was done to put S-curves in there to make it a square intersection. Well, a person who had lived here previously was coming down to the east on Highway X back then, I believe it was still X, and did not realize that those curves were put in there, ran off the road, hit a culvert, was disfigured for life, almost lost her life, and I know there was lawsuits against the state for that. And I'm just telling that story because that's what can happen when you change traffic patterns and think it's going to make it safer. There's no guarantee of that. If we want 100%
guarantee that that's a safe intersection. Like Supervisor Brooks said, close the intersection until the roundabout is built. Thank you.
Supervisor Eisen.
Yes, on the amendment. I sought to speak in an effort to bring the Highway Commissioner to the podium to address the board. And he has satisfied my concern, and I would believe that I do not support this amendment because I prefer to leave the discretion to the Highway Commissioner in respect to whether temporary signals should or ought to be installed.
Supervisor Knitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Winters, refresh our memory, and what is the projection of starting time on this?
Starting time on the full project or on temporary signals? Full project?
On the whole project.
Because we're getting state funding, we have to follow their rules. So picking an engineer and getting a design done and then potentially buying right-of-way is going to be the better part of a year and a half. And then the construction could be 2.5 to 4 months, one construction season, generally speaking. I'm using 3 years as a kind of the general idea. We could get it done quicker than that. It could take 3 years.
Then too, in any way, when the temporary, if so, they're going to be there, is it going to affect the construction of the roundabout in any way?
No, having signals or not having them will have nothing to do with the construction or the design of the roundabout.
Thank you.
Supervisor Wernke.
First of all, I concur with Supervisor Brooks on closing this intersection. I serve on the Highway Committee, and I have brought this up several times about closing it during the construction. I've been told by the engineers that it would interfere with emergency vehicles. But I do think that there's a way to get around this. Now, we were given a report on this intersection that says there's average of 7 accidents a year there. So if we're talking 3 years, we're going to prevent 21 accidents. There is an intersection up at Green Bay that I pass quite a bit. It's north of Green Bay, and it was also classified as a dangerous intersection. It goes to, the road goes to Champion, and there's some restaurants and that there. But there was a bad accident up there about a month or a month and a half ago, and the highway department up there did not hesitate after that accident, which happened on a Friday. They closed that intersection down permanently until they can get a fix on it. And I think this is what needs to be done at Oak Ridge. And I know it has to be worked out with the emergency vehicle people. But if we're going to be able to save some accidents here, and it's something that's going to take 3 years, I think we should go with it. So that's my feeling. I do support the amendment for the roundabout. One of my main concerns about doing this is, you know, if we're going to do this, but how many more requests are we going to be getting for roundabouts, and how much more money can this county support? You know, that's going to be a problem. So, but as far as this one goes, I do support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I oppose the amendment, and I have knowledge that once the lights are, if that intersection are put in place, that the hill rising up area will have a warning sign telling people that there are intersection control lights ahead, and that should eliminate the surprise of coming up that hill and seeing the lights at the intersection.
Supervisor Farley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the thoughts of Supervisor Haig and Ramus. I paralleled those thoughts for quite some time. However, I believe the wording in sentence 9, 19, 20, 21 should remain. It's we need to give more discretion here, or at least some discretion, to the committee and to the Mr. Winters, the Highway Commissioner. So I wouldn't want to take that option away and not allow them to have that discretion. Certainly he knows best, and working with the sheriff, I think we can accommodate everybody's concerns and needs. That's my opinion on it.
Supervisor Shirk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have here a fatal intersection. We know how dangerous it is and has been for years and years. We've been told that it'll take 3 years to fix in terms of a roundabout. And now from the discussion I'm hearing, we might do nothing for 3 years. That to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's been some ideas thrown around, but they haven't been put into any kind of a motion or amendment, so I'm going to support the amendment.
Supervisor Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm against the amendment. I think it should stay the way it is. I was one that I'm not even sure if lights should go in there, period. If they go over rumble strips and they were put in after the accident and you still had people going through, they're still going through stop signs, what makes you think that they're going to go through them lights? And if people are coming one way and they see green and somebody's the red and they still go through, you know, it's going to be much worse, I think, if they won't even stop the way it is right now. So I'm against the amendment.
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to the amendment, we've heard some good debate here. We heard that potentially putting up temporary lights is a recipe for something to happen. And I would certainly concur that I think the only thing that would happen is something good. In regards to the other stoplights on CB, where there are lights currently, intersection County Trunk CB, County Trunk JJ, there are accidents there. I requested accident statistics from the Sheriff's Department, and I've got 5 years worth of accident report. The last 5 years, there's been a total of 26 accidents, County CB and JJ. County CB and County Trunk O, there's been 20. And against my intuition, where I thought there might be a lot of accidents on just where there's a stop sign on a three-way intersection, County Trunk CB and II, there's only been 12. And I thought that there was a fatality there, but I didn't see a fatality listed. But the last 3 years, especially just north of there, just north of CB and Oak Ridge, there's only been 9 accidents at CB and JJ. And I think maybe the fear here of putting up the lights is that we're going to find out that the lights work, that the lights are a sufficient control to the intersection that will reduce, at least reduce accidents, and will bring recognition to that intersection that there is a safety issue. We heard from the County Highway Commissioner, Mr. Winters, here tonight that signals should help with safety. He also said that the hill would not be a significant factor in accidents if there are lights, temporary lights placed at that intersection. I was at the Highway Committee meeting where Supervisor Warnke asked if he should amend their original resolution to include closing Oak Ridge, and there was quite a bit of very good debate there, and I have to applaud Mr. Warnke for bringing that up during that meeting. I thought it was a great discussion. And I don't know that I'm still against closing Oak Ridge if we don't put up lights there just to control the intersection. 3 years is too long to wait. In regards to roundabouts, period, roundabouts don't guarantee safety. I've heard several times stoplights don't guarantee safety. Roundabouts don't guarantee safety. And in fact, unfortunately, I don't even know that the last death at that intersection would not have been fatal had there been a roundabout there. I don't know that that would have been the case. In regards to the other roundabouts in Neenah, there are problems with the roundabouts in Neenah. The large roundabout at Green Bay Road and Winneconne Avenue, it's a mess. We talk about stacking in the queue, stacking on Oak Ridge. We don't know that the roundabout there would make the queue time go down. In the afternoons at Green Bay Road and Winneconne, they're stacking north on Green Bay Road past Festival Foods, if you've ever been down that way late in the afternoon. I don't know that it's been a benefit. We've had signs, temporary signs placed in the median on eastbound Winneconne as you drive into the roundabout, asking people to be safe, be in the left lane, don't fly like an eagle. There's a temporary sign on westbound Winneconne entering the roundabouts there. I think that we are just getting roundabout crazy to a certain extent, and it's not going to end. This is $350,000 for this roundabout on Winnebago County. The other money is not free. The other money is passed through from the federal government. The federal government doesn't have any money. Trillions of dollars in debt. I understand it's a dangerous situation. I amended this to get the lights up sooner than later because I believe the roundabout is a fait accompli. I believe it will pass tonight, but I want to see a control mechanism there sooner than later so that nobody else gets injured. My youngest daughter travels through that area on her way to Neenah High School periodically. I don't have a problem with her driving through there the way it is now. I think it would be safer if there was a stoplight, just like on CB and County Trunk O, and CB and JJ, and the other traffic lights that she drives through every day of the week. Thank you.
Supervisor Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All along from the beginning of this discussion, I, as well as a number of fellow supervisors, had said that we believe that there needed to be a temporary solution and a long-term solution. If we pass this resolution tonight without this sort of verbiage, all we have is that long-term solution. And while I recognize that there is the potential for the Highway Commissioner to do something, I want to know for certainty that something is going to be done. When you look at this, it's a 2 to 3 year old project before final completion. And I would argue that in those 2 or 3 years, we should do everything possible to try to make this as safe as possible before we have a permanent solution. Now, in the project presentation that we had just a month ago, in fact, there are a number of statements to this fact already. If you look on line 2, specifically in regards to the issue of closing off the intersection, it says, any restriction of access across or onto County CB would create a significant inconvenience for the traveling public and emergency vehicles and was therefore not recommended by the public. Now, I'm not necessarily opposed to exploring that, frankly, but I want to know and guarantee that something's going to happen. I would argue we put something in there, we ensure that that happens, and if the Highway Commissioner, the Highway Committee finds an opportunity or an option that they feel is better and safer, then we consider it at that time. But at least we know something is being done as a short-term measure, and we know it's something that is a bit safer than doing nothing at all. Now, in that same report, actually, it talks about short-term alternatives. And on page 5, it's actually very clear. It says the 2 stop control alternatives were determined, not to have sufficient capacity to be viable. Said the two-way stop control alternative would not improve congestion on Oak Ridge Road, while the all-way stop control alternative would add unnecessary delay in queuing onto County CB. And then it goes on to say, therefore, the temporary signal was determined to be the preferred short-term alternative at the intersection. Therefore, I would argue, if we're going to have a short-term and a long-term solution, then our consultant has already told us the answer that we have right now. Temporary stoplights are the best option we have at the moment. If we find something else in the future, then we consider going with that. But we go with the facts as we know them today. Now, we're talking about $100,000 here on a project of $1.9 million. You're talking about a 5% change to increase the safety at this intersection over the next 2 or 3 years. I simply cannot vote for it unless I know that I've done everything possible. And by putting in the short-term solution, I feel that I can. So I'd urge you to support including this in the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm speaking again, not because I'm not looking for a short-term solution. I just question the ability of traffic lights to prevent us from having another serious incident at that intersection. Hate to keep bringing it up, in 38 years, I never have met anybody that intentionally ran a light hoping to have an accident. I've seen all kinds of accidents at intersections where people are trying to beat the yellow light. I see all kinds where they aren't paying attention. As a matter of fact, I have a very close friend who was severely injured just 2 weeks ago at South Park and 20th Street here in Oshkosh from somebody texting as they were going through that intersection. I testified in court against the state of Wisconsin while a patrolman on North Street and 41 ramp, southbound ramp, even after they had put up lights at North Street where it intersected with the 41 southbound ramp, people had trouble slowing down in time to prevent traffic accidents, or people going across from North Street or on North Street thought they could beat the traffic. All of us here tonight are trying to find a way to make that as safe an intersection as we can. While Mr. Haig, or Supervisor Haig, questions the safety that roundabouts bring, I just suggest that he Google safety issues, and he will find that there is a greatly reduced number of serious bodily injury and fatal accidents as a result of roundabouts. Those statistics were out there when this was first presented for the entire 41 project. One last thing about queuing. I drive through the intersection, or the roundabouts, at 41 and 21 every single day. I can remember coming into work when the sheriff's office was downtown and being backed up well over a mile behind that light. Now the most I see is 5 or 6 cars, and while I see some people that don't go through or transition through the roundabout the way they should, I have yet to see an accident in that intersection. And I don't think there are too many intersections or roundabouts in our area that have more traffic than 21 and 41. I want something to be done so that I can rest easy as it relates to that intersection. You can't eat your cake and have it too. If you want to prevent something while we're or pending the long-term solution, the only way to do it is to close off Oak Ridge Road. I understand the problems it has for emergency response, but once again, I think we have to kind of balance that, and I think we have to make that decision tonight. Supervisor Ramos brings up he hasn't heard any other suggestions or any other amendments. Well, maybe it's my ignorance as from being a new supervisor, but I thought we had to deal with this amendment before we dealt with the next one, because I guarantee you it is my intention to bring up an amendment to that very specific point if this current amendment is defeated. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Binder.
I'm going to support the amendment. I truly believe that the consultant stated that the temporary stoplights would actually do good for the short-term solution. And I guess I don't want to wait for another fatality like Maya and then sit back and say, well, I guess we should have put the stoplights in. I guess if we put the stoplights in and it causes a problem, they can always come back and we can try to correct that. But I'd rather be proactive and not have another fatality and then come back and say, oh, I guess we should have done that. So I'm going to support it, and I hope the rest of the board does too.
Thank you. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It took me up until right now to decide that I am also going to support it. Are you surprised, Guy? But anyway, the reason I am is, first off, is safety is one of the most important things. If you want to shut Oak Ridge off, now you're not only making people go a different way that they're not accustomed to or used to. It's an inconvenience, but you put temporary lights up, it's a safety. I don't know if we should leave them runners still in the road or not. I'll leave that up to Ernie because he's the boss. He knows what should be done. So I'm going to support this resolution with the temporary lights. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to point out to any new supervisors that whether this amendment passes or fails, another amendment can still come forth suggesting something else. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Barker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I keep hearing this with lights. If we put them in and we go on and talk about them, if those lights are put in and we go on to something better, as I kind of hear them saying that there's something better than just lights, are those lights just thrown in the ditch or plowed underground? I mean, it don't seem to me that it should be something that's completely thrown out. Sometimes something happens. Sometimes we put a roof on a house and we find out it isn't the right roof we put on the house and we have to do something different. There's a lot of things. How many times are our cars called and have to have something different done to it? I understand that's not the best way to save our money, but I'm thinking of the lives to save. I have two of my children who live right in the mess out there and go through that constantly, and I don't want to lose two members of my family. And I don't think anybody else in here does either. That place is just an accident waiting to happen every day.
Supervisor Wojciechowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My understanding is that you can support the signs and still vote no on this amendment because it's still an option for Ernie to put them there if he feels that they need to be there. Personally, I would rather see it closed down. That's why I'm going to vote no on this, because I'm guessing someone's going to bring up an amendment to close it down instead. So I will be voting no on this.
Who's goofing around? Supervisor Olson.
I've heard a lot of comments here, pro and con on this, and people keep talking about if the traffic lights were put up there, miraculously, there'd be no more accidents. And from what I've been hearing from all the experts, is that the traffic lights are there for traffic flow, not necessarily for accidents. Accidents happen because, for the most part, people aren't paying attention or something. That's what happened to my brother. He was killed when a drag racer went over a boulevard and hit him. And so there were traffic signals at that corner, and he still got it. So I have to defer to the experts here. Sheriff Brooks makes some excellent points about closing that intersection down, and I don't know why this particular intersection is any different from any other construction site and any other road construction site we've done. Even 441 and 41 has been closed for how long? The traffic goes through, and we have to take some alternate routes now that some of the exits are closed. You live with it. You live with it. We got to do what's right. And If this is the normal procedure for reconstructing an intersection and closing it down, then I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whatever happens with this amendment, I'm still voting in favor of this resolution. But I remember this late spring, early summer, when Supervisor Thompson just sort of threw out an idea that no one really ran with, when he said that maybe the easiest solution would be the simplest one, and he suggested putting a traffic cop there who would ticket anybody exceeding the speed limit. There was talk that we'd have to come up with additional monies to pay for that, but I would think the cost of issuing tickets to every single person speeding through that intersection, and in addition, if there's traffic lights there, running the traffic lights, that the revenue from all those tickets would pay for the overtime of cops being parked out there. Nothing is going to guarantee that there won't be something going wrong, because we're humans. People are going to make the mistakes, but something has to happen now, not 3 years later. If the temporary solution is the best solution, then now. And if we think that that's not going to do it, put a cop out there and round the clock and ticket people who are speeding through that intersection. We can't let this go on any longer. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on the discussion I'm hearing, I suspect there will be another amendment coming forward to close the intersection. So given the choice between Mr. Haig's amendment and closing the intersection, which I do not support, I think the report we received is, as Mr. Ramos indicated, that is not advised. So I said before that we should leave it to the discretion of the Highway Commissioner. However, if I anticipate another amendment coming forward to close it, taking that discretion away from the Highway Commissioner, then I believe I will support Mr. Haig's amendment. That is, of the two, that would be the option I would take. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple comments I heard here in the discussion. One was that those of us who were not in favor of the temporary lights were hoping that it would fail. That's ridiculous. And the other one is that Mr. Winters said that the traffic lights would make it safer. I believe that's not what he said. I would ask if he wanted to clarify that, but I believe Mr. Winters said that traffic signals don't make it safer, it's just for moving traffic. And the next part is, what do you think is going to happen to Oak Ridge while the roundabout is being built? It's probably going to be closed. So if a closure is such a bad thing, it's going to happen anyways for a while, because that's the only way that roundabout's going to get built. Thank you.
So did you want Ernie to answer? Okay.
If he wants
to. I believe I said they could possibly make it safer. The thing we have to all remember is it's impossible to quantify something like that. If we put up temporaries and we don't have any accidents, that's a good thing. Did it really make it safer, or were people just paying more attention? If we don't put up the temporary signals and we go 3 years without accidents, it's a safe intersection. You can't design for driver behaviors. There's just no way to do that.
Supervisor Knitsky.
Mr. Winters, the original intent of the phrase, should they be needed, where do we stop and where do we end with that?
My intention, if this were to pass with the original language that was drafted, was to look very carefully at putting up temporary signals, talk to all the stakeholders, revisit the discussion with the consultant that we hired, and also probably talk to the design consultant, which, if this passes, we'll be hiring, to have them take another look at it and come to the right decision whether or not we need signals, with everybody involved and everybody contributing.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gabbard.
So I came here tonight to vote for this resolution, and we are quabbling about $100,000 on a $1.9 million project that we're getting funding for. I read this 3-4 times, and if you can't trust the highway commissioner to make the right decisions, he's not failed us yet. I don't get why we're spending time after time and changing wording. He just explained this to you, that he will, this should they be needed. You act like they're not going to be put up. I came tonight thinking we're going to have them at a point in time, sooner than later. Ernie, in the beginning of the summer, told us that they take 6 weeks to get them installed. So I guess I've sat and I've listened to everybody, but to me, the $100,000, whether you think he's going to do these or not, that's not what we're here for. We're here for to pass this resolution so we get the ball rolling to get this roundabout put in. I assume the lights will be put in because that's what Ernie has told us all along, and especially when the consultant was here a month ago, said that they thought there should be lights put up. I don't think changing this wording is going to make a difference to me. I don't know if we should close that intersection. I was glad that Supervisor Rasmussen said, how do you think a roundabout's going to be put in? We're going to have to close that anyway, so that will come. And what is safety? I mean, it's the driver's responsibility to drive safely. If there's lights there, I think it would help. I'm not an expert. I just want to vote for this resolution and get it passed and move on to the other stuff, because to me, Ernie Winters is going to put those lights up, and they're not going to be later than sooner. So I don't know. I can't vote for that amendment to change all the wording. I like the wording the way it is, and I want to vote for this resolution. Thank you.
Supervisor Singstock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ernie, is my understanding that you stated that once the state gets involved, they take over the whole project. At some point, will the state really will they be sticking their nose in and telling us what we should be doing about this issue that we're talking about?
Interesting question. They won't unless I ask them to, because when you have one of these state municipal agreements, their job is to provide the money and then oversee the design and the construction of the primary project. But the state would be one of those people I would probably talk to before we put the signals up, just to make sure their traffic people thought it was a wise thing to do and we were doing it correctly.
Okay, we'll vote by our little iPad. If you want to vote for the amendment, vote aye. If you don't want to vote for the amendment, vote no. What's the vote on the amendment?
Just a majority, so it should be 19. John, is it majority
On the actual resolution.
That has failed. Now back to the original resolution. Okay. You ready to vote on the original resolution? If you're for the original resolution, Supervisor Brooks.
I'd like to offer an amendment on this, and let me clarify a couple points. This has nothing to do with $100,000. This has to do with preventing some future injury or death at that intersection. That's why I suggest the closed roads. Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen, for bringing up what was a key point to my argument that I had left out, and that is that it will be eventually closed. Those of us that have lived in the areas of roundabouts know that the roads have been closed. Emergency vehicles have found their ways around it. I can remember when 41 and 21 was being done, and the sheriff's office had to station somebody temporarily south of the bridge in order to guarantee response time. Emergency responders and the motoring traffic or drivers will find ways around it, just as they're doing now on Double I for all those people that work at Kimberly-Clark. My wife also drives this intersection now as a result of Double I being closed down, and I'm not happy that she's going through that intersection. I do not think it is going to be any safer with traffic lights. Therefore, I would offer an amendment to remove lines 19 through 23 and replace it, whereas preventing future injuries or deaths at this intersection are of the key importance to this project. The the traffic on Oak Ridge Road shall be stopped at County Trunk CB until the roundabout is completed.
Well, I mean, that's not in the therefore resolved.
No, it's not a whereas clause. That would have to be a resolve clause.
All right.
Okay.
Resolved?
It should be added
At the
after,
end.
you know, either after line 26 or line, I'd say after line 26.
Okay, but I could,
You could have the same language in there.
what would be the impact of removing 19 through 23, or excuse me, leaving 19 through 23 in, and then adding that in between 26 and 27?
It would just give the, I'm sorry. It would give the highway commissioner discretion with regard to putting the lights up, but you would still have the road closure that you want.
Okay.
Is that what you, I don't know if that's what you want or not.
No, I am intending to offer to the county board that the safest way to handle this transition is to close that intersection down. You know, just one more thing about this. We used to joke all the time at the sheriff's office that the engineers and the consultants would design the roads, and then the sheriff's office and the other first responders are the ones that had to go clean up the poor designs. Sometimes it's not really a poor design. Sometimes it is simply a case of the traffic outgrowing the original design, and that's the case here. I've had too much experience with traffic lights not resolving the issue. These people deserve to have this project done as quickly as possible, and they also deserve to have as safe of a way of traveling that road as possible, and that's why I'm offering this amendment.
Supervisor Rowe on the amendment.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think if we're going to do this, we should change the $1,900,000, which is mentioned in two places, to $1,008,000, and the $350,000, which is also mentioned in two places, to $250,000. Thank you.
Do you need a second on that?
Second.
I'm not sure what the original amendment was. Mike, do you want lines 19 through 23 deleted?
That's correct.
And then you want, be it further resolved that Oak Ridge Road be closed during the construction of this project?
That Oak Ridge Road be closed to County Trunk CB pending the completion of the roundabout at that intersection.
And be closed from what point to what point?
Immediately closed until the completion of the roundabout.
No, but from what point on the road to what point on the road?
Oak Ridge Road where it meets CB. Or would it be easier if I just said that that intersection should be closed for traffic from Oak Ridge Road until the completion of the project?
Probably.
Okay. Then,
The Oak Ridge Road, the intersection of Oak Ridge Road and CB be closed until the completion of this project. Closed immediately?
yes.
I think Highway Commissioner wants to speak.
Please don't put immediately in there. I don't think I can deliver on immediately. There's going to have to be a lot of discussion about this with DOT. It could turn into a legal issue. To my knowledge of the statutes, we do have the right to close access points onto our county system, but we would need to go through a process to make sure we're legal. A couple of months.
Within 90 days of today's date.
And then, so do you have that? So then Mr. Rowe's amendment wants to decrease the amount of money. Did we add that in right now with that?
He could amend the amendment, but I don't think his math is correct on the last part, because it's what the funding is, what percentage that we have to contribute, Ernie?
We have to contribute 10% on the roundabout project. The 100,000 is separate money for temporary signals. The state will not participate in that.
Okay.
So if we don't put up signals, we don't need the 100,000 in there.
Okay, so then what does that make our amount of the funding for, 250?
Yeah, it would be a 1.8.
So he is correct. So he is correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I wasn't sure that the percentages added up. All right. Yeah, so he could amend it, but he's got to bring his own motion, and then that motion's got to be,
So should we follow through with this one first, or rather than get it so confusing, or you want to?
well, it's going to be confusing because you have an amendment that's pending, and then he wants to make an amendment, but maybe Mike would allow friendly, or would amend it.
Yes.
Right.
To say that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd make an offer for a friendly amendment that
Thank you.
states that.
Okay, so does everybody have that? He has a friendly amendment on there to add 200, or to take away 250,000, correct?
Take
To
away
add?
100.
So you would delete line, I
He just
believe
said
the way it should
250.
read is lines 19 through 23 would be deleted, and then after line 26, it would say, now be it further resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that it hereby authorizes the intersection of County CB, Ernie, and Oak Ridge Road to be closed?
Yes, but I would like to speak on that when I get a chance.
Subject to the state's approval within 90 days of the date of approval of this resolution.
That works.
And then line 27 would be amended to read 250,000 instead of 350,000. Is that correct, Bill?
No, he said 100.
Also, line 18.
No, that,
Those would all be correct.
oh, yeah, line 18 would be 250 and line 27 would.
And line 25 would be $1,008,000.
Huh? No, that stays there. So this would come after line 26.
Lines 2 and 25 would be $1,008,000.
No.
Okay,
So
Clerk, I
what
would
did you
like
say,
to
Bill, as
listen.
far as,
Lines 2 and 25 would be $1,008,000.
Still the total would be $1,008,000.
It would be 1.8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you have it?
lines 18 and 27 would be 250.
And then Supervisor Blank on the amendment? I mean, on the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in support of the roundabout, but my only concern with the temporary closure of Oak Ridge would be the increased traffic flow on the intersection north of it that just has a stop sign. And I'm just curious on if Mr. Winters has anything to say on what his recommendation, if we closed it, would that increase any other traffic issues?
It will push traffic to other intersections. There's no doubt of that. It's the way it's going to be. And what I wanted to mention, maybe this is a good time, in terms of a closure, I'm thinking, someone correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to close the middle of the intersection so there's no cross traffic. Oak Ridge would still be able to access CB turning right from both legs of Oak Ridge. That's what I had in mind with a closure. I don't know why I'm looking at Bill, I am.
Supervisor Brooks?
Ernie, it was my intention to close Oak Ridge Road off so they could not cross CB at all. And the reason for that, again, is that doggone hill for the northbound traffic. I don't know that I'm comfortable with allowing traffic to turn in front of traffic that's coming over a hill. But it's my intention, unless somebody else wants to offer an amendment, that the intersection will be closed, just as it would be, as Supervisor Rasmussen mentioned, and as you just mentioned, during the construction of the roundabout.
Meaning there'd be dead ends then. When we analyzed the accidents, very few were the turning movements you're referring to. Most of them were crossing traffic or traffic turning from CB across the median onto Oak Ridge. That's where most of the accidents occurred. There are some that were turning like you're saying, but not many. And at least just closing the middle then would still allow people to use CB, but they would be making right turns.
Supervisor Ramos?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, let me be completely clear. I am completely for the initial resolution as it stood. I am completely for a roundabout at that intersection. So what we're really talking about now here is the short-term solution. And I'm very concerned about the amendment as it stands right now. Because basically what we're saying is, despite the fact that we have not fully evaluated a closure, despite the fact that we had a consultant who did not recommend it, nor provide us any analysis for or against it, nor have we fully evaluated it with our own highway commissioner, we nonetheless are saying to close this within 90 days. Likewise, in the prior amendment, a couple of the rationales, which are very logical, frankly, were to give the highway commissioner latitude. But now, by voting for this and saying to close that intersection in 90 days, we are taking away complete latitude from him. Now, before, when Supervisor Haig put his amendment up, and when I offered some thoughts about it, my complete thought was hearkening back actually to Supervisor Rowe, way back, I think it was in the spring and the summer. Because he put forward the resolution saying that there shall be traffic lights installed, I think it was $200,000, maybe $100,000 at this intersection. And I said right at that time, I don't agree with that as a solution because I think we need to evaluate the situation, but I do agree with the intent because it's moving the issue forward. And indeed, I would argue it definitely moved the issue forward. Now, when we had the prior amendment, my whole thought with that was that if we put in the temporary traffic light amendment, A, we're going to have money in it, And B, we're guaranteed to move the ball forward in terms of any alternatives, and that if they're better than temporary traffic lights, they would come to us very shortly. And I do believe that would be the case. But anything we do has to be based on a thorough evaluation. And any potential closure we put in tonight with a 90-day timeline clearly is not fully vetted by this board. In fact, we're already talking about options here at the board, which I would argue would happen at the committee level, about closing it in the middle versus closing it completely off. I am completely supportive of doing whatever we think is the best in terms of the safety and short-term measure. So I appreciate the intent, but we have to do it with the best information available. So I would go back, since the First Amendment was defeated, I agreed with the rationale to give the Highway Commissioner the latitude. Let's give him the latitude to figure this out. If we really want to do something differently, and we really want to consider closure, then let's just ask them to evaluate that possibility. At least we know if that option's coming forward to us. It's been completely vetted by our highway commissioner and brought to the consultant for a full evaluation, and we see that analysis. But to approve it here tonight with a 90-day deadline, to me, is not the most prudent way to go. Just one final point. I've been known to say many times, and I was about to say this tonight as an exception. Supervisor Schurz heard me say this plenty of times. Democracy done right is most often messy. And I was going to say that this was going to be an unusual situation, actually, because I would argue in the last 6 months, putting aside the years before that, putting aside the unfortunate event that preceded us, indeed, it wasn't very messy so far in the last 6 months. It was somewhat pretty. But we've definitely messed it up a little bit tonight. It's a little messy tonight, but perhaps that's because it's democracy done right. But I would argue democracy done right now is to fully evaluate that situation. If you really believe in it, give them time to bring back the information, and then we'll look at it. So I'd urge you to defeat it. Thank you.
Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Boy, he did a heck of a job, didn't he? One question will be to Ernie. In my area, which is right close to what you're talking about, Oak Ridge and CB, they're shutting a lot of your 41 exits off going to east and or north and west. No, east and west. Are they going to be doing any more going south? Because, you know, if this board decides they want to shut CB down, Oak Ridge down, I don't know how anyone's going to be able to get from the south to the north or vice versa. Right now, a lot of people are using CB because of double I in that. So, I mean, we have to take in consideration the people that live in the area. I mean, just because I live there, I'm very concerned. And I hope everybody else, whether they live there or not, would be very concerned because, you know, they're the taxpayers like anybody else. But we just can't just shut something down because it's going to be the easiest way of doing something. So I also would like to know, when we say we're going to close CB Oak Ridge down, what are we actually talking? Are we talking completely Oak Ridge across CB and CB across Oak Ridge? Or are we just talking just Oak Ridge to CB? CB will be running north and south. I don't understand because of the fact we've had 2, 3, 4 different people come up with different solutions. So before I can vote, I need to know what are we talking about. Thank you.
Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm surely not qualified to answer your question, but nobody else stepped forward. It's my understanding from Supervisor Brooks's amendment that it would be closed and you could not access CB from Oak Ridge. Would CB be still running north and south? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's not why I buzzed in. I'm just trying to be helpful. The reason I buzzed in, and Ernie, it's a question for you that I was going to ask sometime tonight. Last month, you talked about 1.8 million, and the county's share would be 10%, which was 180,000. And when I got this resolution, and it was 1,000,009. I was a little wondering why until I saw the extra 100,000. But if you take 10% of 1,000,009, it's only 190,000. So where does the 250 or 350 come from?
It's purely contingency. It's a capped number from the state. It's a little over 1.5 million is what we're getting. And if the project goes over for whatever reason, if we need to spend more for right-of-way for whatever reason, things I can't tell right now, it's purely contingency money.
So in this case, it would be, Winnebago County share would be 180,000, and there'd be a contingency of another 170? Excuse me, another 70.
Another 70, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Gabbard.
Okay, here we go. I'm not going to vote for the amendment to close it because I can see we don't know what we're closing, and I'm not a highway commissioner, so I don't know what we're closing, which part of it. So my other thought is, it's 90 days. We got to wait 90 days, November, December, January. Okay, we can have lights up within 6 weeks, according to what Ernie told us back when we hired the consultant. So at his expertise, he could have those lights up and we could be rocking and rolling with lights. I'm not sure what's going to come back from the state in 90 days, and we have the holidays and maybe the big kahunas down at the state are going to be gone. I don't know. But to me, I don't know why we can't just go back to this original resolution and get this passed. We have spent an hour on a paragraph and we still haven't passed the main meat of this thing. So let's say we put the lights up and something happens. Come back to the board and close it off at that time. I can't support closing it because I don't know what part we're closing. Somebody said, oh, Oakwood's closed, Oak Ridge is closed. Oh, no, maybe you could turn right onto CB from both ways. Then we got to check with the state, and we don't move that fast in the state. So I'm thinking, I can't support this, and I sure hope we can go back to the original resolution and vote on that pretty soon, because I think that's really important to get this done. Thank you.
Supervisor Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy I'm not running for office anymore because a lot of different comments were made tonight about the motivation behind some of these amendments. My motivation is very simple, and that's not to see another death or great bodily harm accident occur at that intersection. While it has always been very clear to me that what I was referring to was to close off the ability for Oak Ridge Road traffic to cross CB or to turn onto CB, to simply close it down just as it will have to be done later on. I recognize that it is an inconvenience, but 21 and 41 was closed down for months. 9th and 41 was closed down for months. So was 4th and 41. People do find other ways around it, and I have to tell you, if the traffic has to go up to North Street to make that cross at a four-way, or excuse me, at the stop signs, it is a much better at-grade intersection than what Oak Ridge and CB is. It does not have that hill. I agree, and I will stop talking as soon as the amendments get out of the way, and I will vote in favor of the roundabout. It is, I believe, the best long-term solution. But I also believe that democracy is best when everybody has a chance to hear all the different ideas about these different resolutions. That's why the P&F committee did not eliminate the $100,000 at the committee level and brought it to this. So while we've spent an hour talking, to me it's democracy at its best.
First of all, you did do your last talk because that was your third time. Oh. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Strike that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's interesting how during public comments and up till this point, the whole conversation was about nobody getting hurt again, nobody getting killed again. Safety was the number one thing. That's all that was talked about. Now, through this conversation, inconvenience is now taken over safety. All of a sudden, well, it's going to inconvenience them. Well, both those intersections, north and south of there, are only a mile away. That does not take very long to go. An example, Supervisor Brooks brings up 2141. I live off of that area, west of town, off of 21. There's state plans going on there for 21 upgrades. All those plans show some of our intersections in the town of Algoma are going to be closed permanently. I think we're all going to figure out how to get around when that happens. This is only a temporary thing. As far as what Ernie Winters brought up about possibly changing or blocking off just the median, I think there's some merit to that maybe. I don't have a strong opinion either way on that one. Maybe that's a good compromise on this. The other part is, Ernie brought up, and Ernie, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus here or anything, but you said that when you had the discretion about the signal lights, that the state would be one of the factors in there, what they think, but yet all those entities will be able to make that decision and have that done in 6 weeks, but yet a conversation about a closure would take 90 days or 60 days. I'm not quite sure why that would be, why the difference. Thank you.
Simply because of the legalities involved in closing a road. I just want to make sure we're on real firm footing, that we're not doing something wrong or against statute or the DOT would advise us against. That would be the only reason for the time.
Supervisor Robel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe we had a very, very good engineering group of people working on this particular roadway. And God, I thought the job was done accurate, and I thought we'd get up to #1 job, and I never figured we'd be running into a situation like this. I sure wish we would take our original resolution and vote on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take our little iPad and vote on, can you read back what we're doing? We're voting on the amendment now? Yes. We're voting on the amendment. Can you read back?
I should shut that. The amendment is to remove lines 19 through 23, and then at line 27, be it further resolved that the intersection of Oak Ridge Road at County Trunk Highway CB be closed within 90 days until the completion of this project.
But we had an amount of dollars.
Contingent upon state approval. And then also the amounts are changed on line 2 to $1.8 million, line 18 to $250,000, line 25 to $1.8 million, and line 27 to $250,000.
Okay, we'll play your little iPad. Just click. Passed.
Lost.
Huh?
Failed. That's failed. 8 to 27. Lost.
That has failed, 8 to 27. Now back to the original resolution.
Are you ready to just vote?
And we'll, seeing there's no questions, we'll vote on it. Oh, Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, and I promise to be brief, but I would be remiss if I didn't make a few comments. The concern that I have is the numbers, the fact that the numbers kept changing. We were told 17 months ago that traffic signals would cost $200,000. 6 months ago, we were told they would be $400,000. Last month, we were told they would be $1,200,000. That pretty well, traffic signals, that pretty well assured most of you that you weren't voting for traffic signals, you were going to vote for a roundabout. The supervisors in this room know that I thoroughly investigate every issue. Along those lines, I have studied the 2008 report, the 2012 report, and the latest study this year. Looking at traffic counts, obviously there are 4 directions, north, south, east, and west. While traffic in 2 of those directions show an ever so slight increase, 2 of the directions actually show a decrease in traffic versus 2012. Finally, I've discussed this situation with approximately 200 constituents, and 95% of them do not believe a $2 million roundabout is the answer. Thank you.
Okay, we'll vote by our little iPad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. You have to lock yours, Bill. That is passed. So we're all done, right? We're all done with that one, though. That's all completely done. We'll take a 2-minute break. What?
The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly.
Ordinance number 055-9/2016, repeal and recreate Chapter 27 of General Code of Winnebago County entitled Shoreland Zoning Code. Supervisor Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of ordinance number 055-92016 with one small change on line 26. Could this please scratch out outlined in Exhibit A? That's just exhibits that, and all we're just is we're approving the code itself, so.
Boy, I could have
otherwise
been
there's
a
no
teacher. I
changes.
slapped the thing down and everybody sat down. No? Okay, does everybody have that? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Oh. Supervisor Farley.
Thank you. I just want to take a minute to thank the Planning and Zoning Committee. Parts of this was a little controversial, and our Planning and Zoning Committee did due diligence and certainly listened to the towns in this county and did make amendments to this ordinance. So I do thank all you guys in that committee. Well done.
Okay, that had passed. Resolution number 057-10/2016, commendation of Rodney Scharfenagel. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for Resolution 57-10/2016. Rodney Scharfenagel began working for Winnebago County Department of Human Services in 1977 as a social worker, conducting child abuse and neglect investigations. In 1982, he left Winnebago County, only to return in 1994, when he joined our Access Unit as a social worker. In 1997, he made a lateral transfer to serve as the liaison to law enforcement for the Access Unit, and stayed in that position until he retired in October 2016. In all, Rodney dedicated 27 years to the Winnebago County Department of Human Services. Please join me in wishing him well in retirement.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Carried. Resolution number 059. Resolution number 058-10/2016, commendation of Gladys Farr. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you. I move for Resolution 58-10/2016. Gladys Farr began her career with Winnebago County as a shelter care social worker and worked in that capacity for about 8 years. For the remainder of her 37 years with Winnebago County, Gladys was a child abuse and neglect investigation social worker. Gladys maintained a high level of commitment to this very difficult area of social work. She maintained a special interest in investigating sexual abuse cases. Gladys was relied upon by her co-workers over the years as the person who could remember consumers, the concerns that led to their involvement with the department, and how families were connected to each other. She was an early champion of technology for human services, possessing a way ahead of her time vision of how technology could benefit human services. We wish Gladys the best in her well-deserved retirement.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 059-10-2016, disallow the claim of Brian L. Huey. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you. I move for resolution number 59-10-2016.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 060-10-2016, disallow claim of David G. Madell Jr. Supervisor Rasmussen.
I move for resolution number 60-10-2016.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a brief comment about this, and in regards to the construction vehicles and at this time of the year, and Ernie's still in the room, do we take any extra precautions when it comes to the loose debris on these vehicles? I see it over and over again, especially with the reconstruction project on 441. It's like they don't even try sometimes to take the clay or the mud or the rocks or the stuff off of anything. I mean, literally anything. Does the county really make a concerted effort to clean up the vehicles when they're at least a little bit when they're getting from the work site to the county facility?
The county does on our trucks and our projects and our equipment, do try to make sure we're not throwing mud or stones or that type of thing. The state on their projects, not nearly as much, especially when there's been a lot of rain, and I'm not making excuses, but one project in particular has been a mess this fall, and it'll probably continue to be a mess just because of the conditions. I don't know which claim that is in particular. We also had a problem with chip sealing this summer because we chip sealed roads we never had before on the state, and that reduced or came to a lot of claims because of car damage.
Thank you.
Yep.
Resolution number 061-10-2016, disallow claim of Karen J. Hottinger. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you. I move for resolution number 61-10-2016.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think we voted on 059.
Yeah, I did, but then it was all over when you asked the call, and I... Resolution 061-10-2016, disallow claim of Carrie J. Hottinger. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Resolution number 063-10-2016, appropriate a total of $570,918 as a capital project to complete upgrades and repairs to the exterior of the UW Fox Valley Campus Library Building. Supervisor Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the acceptance of Resolution 063-10-2016. And if there are questions, Dean Rudd and Rich Hain are in the back that can probably answer them.
Supervisor Olson.
Thank you. I'm reading this resolution, and it says in 2015 a project to repair the outside facade was approved at a total cost of $216,000. Whereas at the end of 2015 the project had not been started. My first question is, why was the project not started? Is there any specific reason why it wasn't started?
Mr. Schneider, do you know anything?
Rich, can I ask Rich to answer that?
Sure.
All right.
have the answer why it was not started. I'm guessing that the project had not been defined by the architect who put the project together. And
You're assuming that it was not approved, or you haven't had the architect. Well, I don't find this to be a very efficient way of doing business. It was in the 2015 budget. For some reason that you don't know what it is, the project was not started. And so subsequent to that time, you reviewed the project again and determined that you're going to need another $355,000, of which $177,459 would come from the general fund. I am not going to vote for this because I don't think the whole approach to this was done on a very efficient basis. We're not a credit union where you can come forward and say, well, we put the project off and now it's going to be another $178,000, so, you know, trust us, that's the way it's going to be. I would like some answers as to why this was not started and why now all of a sudden you say, well, because it wasn't started, we have to spend more money. Thank you.
Supervisor.
Yeah. It was viewed somewhat as discretionary at that time. If you remember, back around the time we were talking about those kinds of projects, we were also talking about snow plowing. And all kinds of funds and discretionary funds were called into question. And this was one of those projects. And then when we went back and revisited it, it became obvious that the original windows in the plan were not even touched in the original project. So if you're going to do it right, we began to discuss that and add that into the project. It's not that we're coming back and asking for a blank check or a credit card. It's just that we want to do the project right this time and get it done.
Thank you.
Supervisor Furry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee vote on facilities and property management was 4-1. Would the person who voted in the negative please explain to the board the reasoning?
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We really didn't know that much about the project. We hadn't seen the facade of the library building, really, or anything. And that same day, I did go out to the facility and kind of took a field trip, took some pictures. You know, I don't know that maybe the biggest reason for the improvement or the increase in dollars here isn't simply because they want it to look like the other buildings. They say, and I would agree to a certain extent, that the structure is an old architectural design. It's some older type of material. There are a couple holes in it where birds have actually burrowed holes and nested in it. It doesn't seem to me there's been a lot of attention to maintenance on those few holes that are there, or the faded paint that, you know, that could be that could help improve the structure. But there was just really no due diligence, I think, up to that point in our committee meeting. No pictures of the facility, you know, nothing that would really identify why the increase in the cost, and that's why I didn't support it, and I won't support it tonight.
Okay. Go ahead.
If I could speak, the project was fully vetted out at the committee. I did explain to the committee at that time what the increased costs were and how we got there. The project had been bid out the spring of this year, and the cost came in at $427,000 and some change, if I have the right number here. But they did not address all the conditions with the building, all the exterior conditions. You know, it did not address any of the leaking windows or the doors or the foundation issues on the south side of the building. So if we were to do this wall and then 2, 3, 5 years later we go to replace the windows, we're cutting apart a brand new wall. It didn't make sense to do a Band-Aid or a half-approach to make this repair on the building. So we fully looked at the building, looked at the exterior, and looked at all the components that needed to be addressed, and that's how we came up with the budget number that we have tonight. So.
So Winnebago County's share of that'll be what, 285,459? I mean, is that split between Outagamie and us, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Supervisor Shirk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, just to be clear, the facilities director is new, and so a lot of the things that were done, the trustees were very concerned about, but they were done under a previous administration, and our question was, well, why were they done that way? Well, obviously they're gone, and so we really couldn't have an answer. But there were legitimate answers to all of our concerns. There's been tremendous diligence put in by the new director in terms of trying to come up with reasons as to why this had to happen the way it did. If you look at the wall itself, Supervisor Haig pointed out that there's holes where birds are burrowing into it and nesting. The need for changes to the doors and windows is fairly obvious. And so I think it's a project that's long overdue. That's an old building. It needs constant update that has not been done in the past, and I think we have a responsibility to make sure that we keep that facility in a condition that allows it to serve the young people of our communities.
Supervisor Haig. Oops, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the line items on the proposal was, and if memory serves, it was $20,000 or $25,000 for landscaping as well. When I looked at the current landscaping that's out there, which is on the west side, primarily on the west side of the wall where there's enough area for landscaping, it's so deteriorated. The brush is overgrown. The landscaping that's there should have been dug out and replaced several years ago. It's growing into the building. There's basically no maintenance. There were weeds and thistles growing thick through the weeds, through the large bushes that exist there. In regards to the doors and the windows, I don't know that it wouldn't be a better alternative to maybe not have the doors. They're not, the doors on the west side specifically are not thoroughfare doors. They are emergency exit only. And the other windows that are on the south side of the library are a very kind of an atrium type looking window, that may or may not be beneficial to interior light in that facility anyway. So I just think that there might be ways to cut costs on this project that really haven't been fleshed out necessarily. And when I saw those numbers, I thought, this is, as Mr. Olson said, it seems like a fairly large amount of money. When we go forward with this facility too, we also need to keep in mind that this is beyond the tip of the iceberg, but it's not the end of the road. There are several more projects coming up. I did go to a trustees meeting not that long ago, and they're talking about potentially purchasing another building adjacent to the facility, that there is restoration of the cafeteria and lunchroom that needs to be done, and I didn't hear a price tag on that, and they're also considering a daycare facility. So I think that when it comes to UW-Fox Valley, the suggestion was made that potentially somebody from facilities and property management could go to the trustees meetings just to be there, maybe for the intensive purpose of reporting back to facilities what's going on. If we can control costs on these projects, it will be a lot easier to swallow future projects. So I just think that these costs need to be reined in. If we can cut them somehow, it would be a lot easier to move forward with some of these other expenditures. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Rule.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As chairman of facilities, I have discussed these topics with Mike Elder, the facilities director, have been assured that he and these gentlemen will be meeting on a monthly basis to keep on top of what's happening.
Supervisor Olson.
Thank you. I want to applaud Mr. Haig's due diligence on this. He's one of the supervisors that goes out of his way, among some others, and does due diligence. I've had a concern now for quite a while about projects like this where there isn't a lot of substantial information that we can make a good decision on. He was talking about other projects coming up, and I'm looking at the capital budget here. They want a new food service and union facilities that's going to cost by the end of the project $5.6 million. A medical science and anthropology lab, $2.7 million. Child care center addition, $600,000. Obviously, that's a significant amount of money. I'm not saying that, enlarge the music classroom, $1.5 million. A large student affairs service space, $2.388 million. That's a lot of money. And I'm not saying that it's not needed. I'm not saying that I oppose it. But we need to have strong due diligence on these things. This is a taxpayer money. And it seems to me there's been such a pattern here of saying, okay, well, we'll go back, we'll ask for additional funds, and it'll be taken out of the general fund. Well, sooner or later, there's not going to be any general fund. So I ask people to please be a little more specific, do your due diligence, and come back with some tightened projects and tightened numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Barker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have been on this committee for probably 20 years or maybe even a little bit longer. I've been here all along. It's been my favorite committee to be on since I've been on the board. The only thing I would say before you do too much, I don't want to say complaining, but looking very diligently at things, you should realize how many people have been cut out of the people who take care of that building. If you go and start checking of the amount of people we used to have that took care of the floors and took care of the building, everybody is now taking care of 2-3 different colleges. So I understand as everybody else is, we're in a kind of a bad shape as everybody else is. We don't have the staff over there anymore, and I'm sure there's no way that we're going to be getting them back. So I'm not complaining. I think they're doing a reasonably good job. If you can figure out a way to get them a little bit more help over there, that may be a help too. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Schneider. Go ahead. You wanted the comment?
Yeah, Martin Rudd, the Regional Executive Officer and Dean of UW Colleges. I just wanted to comment on the projects. They have been prepared with due diligence. As Rich pointed out in his comments, some of these projects were proposed ahead of time and were not, the funding amounts were not fully developed when they first came. I would strongly oppose any cuts to these projects, especially in things such as windows for the library. This is a library which is one of the older parts of the campus. It does not have good lighting in it as it is, and the atrium area where the windows are on the south side are one of the key lighting parts to allow natural light into the library for the many student study areas in there. Our librarians in there have done a stellar job in determining the usage of the library in particular areas. In fact, for the UW colleges, for the 13 campuses, they are the leaders in the space design of the inside of the library to ensure that the students have the optimal working environment, including the lighting that is available in there.
Okay. We'll vote on our little iPad. Vote aye if you approve. No if you disapprove. That is passed. Resolution number 064-10-2016. Authorize capital project to replace aging steam boiler system at UW Fox Valley campus and integrate hot water system and appropriate $430,000 to be split equally between Winnebago County and Outagamie County to cover costs of the project. Supervisor Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the adoption of Resolution 064-102016.
It's been moved and seconded. There are no lights. Vote by your iPad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. That is passed. Resolution number 065-10-2016. Appropriate an additional $30,000 to taxiway B reconstruction project at Whitman Regional Airport. Supervisor Wernke.
I move for your approval of 065102016.
Supervisor Knitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There were a number of questions raised by Mr. Larry Lass before the meeting, and in regard to design and involvement in EAA and stuff like that, why don't we ask Mr. Peter Malton to give his rendition on this proposal?
Okay, is there a second on this resolution? Oh, Olson, I guess. Okay, go ahead. You can finish. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Basically, when we started this project, we negotiated with the FAA to fund the entire project, including alternate F, which is the IFR holding bay. At that time, they said it would not be likely that they would fund it. However, because the FAA is encouraging us strongly to close two of our diagonal runways, which are VFR only, daylight, they're not lighted, because of safety concerns with both runways, we entered discussions with them to increase, or actually to have them fund the 90% of the IFR holding bay and go with the 5% state, 5% county funding apportionment. With that, ultimately in the end, they did say no. So with the state funding at 50% of that IFR holding bay and 50% from the county here as the airport sponsor, we went ahead with that. The majority of that alternate was already funded through the initial $310,000. But when the bids came in, we just needed an additional $30,000 for that project. Just as a matter of talking about some of the design, a true IFR holding bay, as Mr. Lass pointed out, in the design standards for the FAA, those are for a more larger aircraft anyway. We rejected that design right off the bat when it was first proposed. The FAA rejected it because it was not needed. The state also agreed with us that it would not be needed. That's why we moved the IFR holding bay to a portion just off of Taxiway Bravo to the north of that. In regards to his question about the EA funding, excuse me, initially we had thought that, yeah, indeed this area does help them out during AirVenture. It helps us out during AirVenture. It helps us out, though, the rest of the year as an area that we could also put aircraft parking that are being displaced at various times, so that I guess in the end, the majority of that area is being funded through FAA funds and state funding, and the 5% from the county. So the EA, we did not approach them yet on the funding because, as the engineer from the Bureau of Aeronautics indicated to me, if they fund it, it becomes their ramp. It's technically lease space, so that we lose control of it then. So now we would maintain control of that particular portion of the airport and that pavement throughout the year. So I think that answered most of the questions.
Thank you.
Supervisor Rule.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Taxiway B has been a topic of conversation for well over a year, right, Peter?
Correct.
And the first time you came to the board, I think you went to the committee, it came to the board, and I forget how many $1 million it was for, but that wasn't correct, right?
It was, yes, it was not correct because
Thank you.
They had to split the cost of the project into two phases because of AirVenture activities, and also the FAA was unwilling to fund the entire project right off the bat. So that created additional costs by having to remobilize the new contractor and go rebid for phase 2 then. That's why the cost increased.
My recollection is that after that large amount was approved at the board, about 3 weeks later, at an aviation committee meeting, it was announced by you that that wasn't going to be enough money and you'd have to split it into two phases, and you were just going to go ahead and do that. And at my suggestion, my suggestion was, I don't think you can do that. I think you got to come back and ask for more money, which you did.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct. However,
I'm
sorry.
And now it's another year later, and now another $30,000. It goes back to questions that have been raised about, that were just raised about UW Fox.
Sure.
Lots of money. I don't remember what it was. $1.5 million, $1.8 million, and then an additional $700,000 or $800,000, and now another $30,000. I guess my question, first of all, is location, and I couldn't see the small diagram that the gentleman had, but is the location in the proper place? Is that determined in this, and I don't know what Aviation Circular 5300 is it in the right place based on what the FAA says?
Well, it's not the most ideal location, but if you want the ideal location, then we'd be spending a lot more money to build additional bays off between the taxiway and the runway. We don't need that because we don't have that volume of traffic. Technically, usually that type of bay, holding bay next to the runway where the advisory circular talks about is for larger aircraft, particularly airliners at larger commercial service airports. We don't need that again. Where we're putting it is more than adequate for us. It's a good location. It serves a number of purposes, and it'll give us the best option for aircraft parking and for holding aircraft who are on an IFR clearance. One other point I should make and address Mr. Last's question about using runway 9 during AirVenture particularly. He said that's the worst option available. Well, when the winds dictate that runway to be used, we don't have a choice. We have to use it. Aircraft has to take off and land into the wind. So when we have an easterly wind, it favors that runway. That's when we need that holding bay.
A couple minutes ago, you said we don't have the volume. We don't have the volume only week or 10 days out of the year?
We don't have the volume to support a larger separate bays off of the runway and taxiway that would be advised in, or that's encouraged in the advisory circular. That would cost us much more in dollars.
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the answers on the aviation circular 5300, which I have no idea about. I'm glad that Mr. Lass...
That's actually missed out a lot of numbers on there, but that's okay.
Okay. In regards to the FAA funding, what we were told earlier, what the testimony was through the public comments earlier, was that the FAA said you were not going to get funding for this project. And what I just heard you say was they didn't say no, but they didn't say yes. So I just want to make sure that we're on solid footing here in regards to, was it no, or was it they had not made a decision?
They said it was not likely that the funding would go through for that particular portion. However, as I said, when we did talk with them about applying that funding to the project, to that alternate F, the IFR holding bay, because of aircraft being displaced by the closure of a future run or a future closing of a runway. They took that into consideration, but later said, okay, it's not within our parameters to allow that project. That's when they said they would not fund that. And that was earlier this spring.
In regards to the whereas that begins on line 15, presenting the project to the EAA and ask if they would be willing to share in the cost of the project since they have the most to gain from it. That was another question from Mr. Last. So the question to you is, shouldn't the private entity benefiting from the project ask the county for it?
Well, they're benefiting from it, but also Winnebago County is also benefiting from it. As I indicated earlier to Mr. Rowe's question, if we lose control of that particular portion of the ramp area, then it technically becomes a leased area, and we don't control it. We can't put aircraft there if we want to. We'd have to get permission from the leaseholder, which would be EAA. This way, if we don't ask them for funding, we have total 100% control of it then.
In regards to that presentation with EAA, do you think it will be likely or not likely that they will support the $30,000?
Well, they would support us paying the $30,000. Their portion would be much larger, about $216,000, if they were to pay our portion of the project. See, as I indicated, the majority of the funding is already in place, but when the bids came in for phase 2, that's in knowing that we had to go to the 50-50 split on the IFR holding bay with the state. That's when we needed the additional $30,000.
Okay, and the last question is in regards to the fiscal impact on line 27. It says the balance per the 2015 audit was $1.2 million. What is the current airport fund balance?
We don't actually close the books monthly. We only do it annually.
Okay.
So I'm not prepared to answer that.
That it? Supervisor Gordon.
My question is, if you get the funding, will you still approach EAA to contribute so that?
No.
No.
We will not, no. Okay. Again, we don't want to lose control of that particular portion. It would become a non-public ramp then. If EAA puts money into it, they have a say in how it gets used. This way we have 100% say in how we use that and what aircraft are going there.
Okay, well, but they will benefit from it as well?
Somewhat, yes, during the AirVenture.
Thank you.
Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a bit confused, Mr. Mull. The resolution, if this is the correct one that I have on line 15, says, whereas Whitman Airport Administration will present this project to EAA and ask if they would be willing to share in the cost of this project since they have the most to gain from it. And I thought I heard you say, I got 2 hearing aids in here, but I thought I heard you say that if we pass this 30,000, you're not going to approach them. How can we have this in the resolution?
Well,
when I heard,
probably an error
I
on my
thought that I heard you say that you won't.
Right. An error on my
then
part.
would it be appropriate to void lines 15 and 16?
That would be appropriate, yes. An error on my part when I wrote it.
I move to amend this resolution by striking lines 15 and 16. I don't hear a
What
second.
can he just say?
Oh, it is. Oh, see, I told you I have a hearing problem.
We'll have to get you those bad hearing aids.
Was there a second on his amendment?
Yes.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Oh, Supervisor Rule.
I have a question, and I think Peter was interrupted. Mr. Eisen was talking, and you were going to answer, and I didn't hear what your answer was going to be. I guess I have the same question that the last 2 supervisors have.
Well,
is that if it says that EAA will be approached to see if they will share in the cost,
right.
And when she asked you the question, you said, no, I'm not going to.
No.
And when the last supervisor asked you...
You said no.
You said no?
Right. We're not going to approach EAA. Again, because it's not a public ramp then. It
Why
becomes
did
a
you
private,
put this
it
in
becomes,
here?
because if they put funding into it, it'd be like if them putting funding into their own ramp, they control it. If they put funding into one of our areas, like
Is
a taxiway.
$30,000 the total cost of the ramp?
No, it's about $216,000.
Are they putting some of that
No.
money in?
No. That's the county portion.
Supervisor Shirk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just not quite clear. You said it wouldn't become a public ramp, and the EAA would then have some control, but that's only for 8 days.
No, it'd be all year round because they're paying for our construction costs.
I mean,
become theirs.
what would they control, or what would they do with it during the non-EAA days?
Whatever they want to do with it. If they want to park aircraft on it, if they wanted to park vehicles like fuel trucks or anything else, they could do it. What we're trying to do is maintain that area so that we know it's going to stay public, that if air traffic needs to park an aircraft on it, that's being held for traffic at a destination airport. If we need it for any other purpose, we have that ability without worrying about what EAA has on that ramp. Understand, let me explain a little further too on this. As I mentioned earlier, there is a taxiway, connector taxiway going through the middle of this. All we're doing is expanding that so that the bay is larger, that we can hold multiple aircraft on it that are waiting during AirVenture or non-AirVenture, it doesn't matter. If they need to hold an aircraft and not on the ramp up by the terminal, we have that ability. So.
Thank you.
Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I just heard correctly, it was $260,000 was the total cost of that?
Correct. That would be the county's portion.
And if this additional cost is $30,000, and if we went to the EA and said, hey, it's $30,000 more because the FAA is not going to contribute, would you go in halves with us? And if they said yes, so if they contributed $15,000 towards a $260,000 ramp, how would they get control of that?
They're going to be able to control a portion of it. Because
They're just
they
contributing.
could, because they're
That doesn't
paying-
make any sense.
Paying the construction costs.
I don't understand that. Another question, how far into the construction is this ramp right now?
There is nothing started yet. It won't start till after AirVenture next year, 2017.
I'm just thinking back in P&F committee when we approved this, and when I voted to approve this, I was under the impression, maybe I heard wrong, that it was already under construction, and that it was just recently found out that the FAA is not going to pay the $30,000, which is why we had to approve that, because it had to be finished.
The
So
bids-
now I'm hearing that it's not been started, and that the FAA, then I heard that the FAA, before it was even bid out, said they weren't going to pay for it. Then I heard that they weren't sure if they were going to pay for it, and now they aren't going to pay for it. So I guess in committee I did not get those answers, but I really have some concerns about all that right now. Thank you.
Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I share the concerns that Mr. Rasmussen just expressed. This is very confusing. So I move to table this till the next meeting so we can get some answers to these troubling questions.
Second. Okay. What are my rule, what am I?
I think what he wants to do is, Mr. Rowe, you can help me. I think what you want to do is postpone this till the next meeting.
Like I said, postpone it till the next meeting.
So is that debatable?
Yes.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay, seeing there's no debate, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? It's referred till the next meeting. Pardon? Resolution 066-10-2016, authorize a transfer of $9,995 from the airport grounds maintenance account to the capital outlay account for the purchase of a Woods Batwing mower. Supervisor Warnke.
I move for your approval of 066102016, and I would like to speak on it.
Then moved and seconded.
I don't understand this, why this has been turned down by the P&F committee. These people are making themselves micromanagers of this thing, and they're trying to tell the people who do the work and who run it what equipment that they can have and what they can't have. I mean, this is $10,000, and they put in a request for it. Now, what is the reason for this? I mean, this is just totally wrong as far as I'm concerned, that you control this. I don't see this happening in any other department. I don't see it happening on parks. I don't see it happening on highway, anywhere else. When people request equipment, 99% of the time they get it. But for some reason, this has been shot down. And I got 1 favorable vote on it and 3 against it. And I guess what I'm asking for is the people who voted against it to tell me why. I don't understand it.
Supervisor Furry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, it did not pass Personnel and Finance. I have the same question. I believe it's brought forward then by the Aviation Committee. Or did the Personnel and Finance just vote no and decide we'll forward it to the board?
That's correct.
What's the explanation? If a committee turns it down, it usually don't go to the board.
Yeah, but
Your rules.
Okay.
You have a specific provision in your rules with regard to I was going to say 6.9, but there's a provision in the rules, and if you give me a second, I can probably find it. But it says that if Personnel and Finance Committee turns down a
a resolution, a request for appropriation or transfer of money, that the main committee, in this case the Aviation Committee, can bring it forward. However, it will require a 2/3 vote to pass.
Okay, thank you.
And I can't remember what the number is right offhand, Mr. Farid, but it is in there.
I appreciate that, thank you. I'll reiterate Mr. Warnke's question.
7.6.
Thank you. What was the logic or the reasoning for 3 members of the committee not to support it? The board should hear that.
Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you. I will provide that.
Thank you.
We'll just go down the list here. That it needs a bat wing instead of a flail mower because it doesn't conform well. Highway Department got rid of bat wing mowers over 20 years ago, went to flail mowers, mow roadside ditches with flail mowers, and I don't know where you're going to find more contours than that, and it mows them just fine. Line 12, needed to cut heavier vegetation. And then you go down to 14, small sapling trees. When you mow road ditches, if you mow them every year, no brush or trees gets big enough that a flail mower can't handle it. So that tells me nothing has been done in there. So if they just mow it every year, you won't have this problem. Spend $10,000 to go cut down some saplings, you could get some people out there to cut them down, and then you can mow it every year after that. So there just wasn't good reasons for this to spend $10,000 when we raised these questions. It wasn't a good reason to not do this. So that's the answer.
Thank you for that very logical explanation.
Supervisor Brooks.
I have a feeling.
I believe Supervisor Rasmussen was much more eloquent than I would be.
Okay, we'll vote it by our little iPad. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. That has failed. Resolution number 067-10-2016, authorize the borrowing of an amount not to exceed $3,940,000 and the issuance and sale of general obligation promissory notes. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Mr. Chairman, I move for resolution number 67-10-2016.
Then moved and seconded. Want to vote? I think we should, for that amount of money, we should vote on our little iPad.
Okay, oh, let me see. If I do, it's gonna cancel the vote on the whole board. Can you just try, why don't you try changing it once? And I'll confirm it, and if it's not right, we'll change it,
All
okay?
right, then.
Okay. Supervisor Hagan, is that right?
That is passed.
You hit the wrong button? Oh, all right.
Supervisor Knitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to adjourn till October 31st at 6 p.m.
Thank you. We are adjourned.